Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño and today we are covering a quote by David Allen Harvey that says, "Don't shoot what it looks like, shoot what it feels like." Before I get into this, I want to talk a little bit about people that study martial arts. And if you study the martial arts well and if you have a good instructor, you'll know that you've probably heard this before. You know, instructors that teach martial arts will tell you, focus on what you're feeling, not what you're seeing, right? Because if you depend on your eyes only, your eyes, between the time of seeing something, the eye sending the message to the brain processing it, and then you deciding if it's good or bad and what you have to do, it takes time. So when we're in close range and you're with an opponent, you focus more on feel, and then you let that guide what your body needs to do, right? So it's interesting because there's a correlation there, right? And I want to make sure I get that out of the way for anybody that does study martial arts or any type of sports where this is important. I believe we go from shooting what we see to shooting what we feel the longer we stay in photography, the longer we dabble with it, right? Unless we're developing bad habits along the way. And let me get into that. Let me explain what I mean by that. You see, early on in a photographer's journey, I'm gonna call it a journey instead of a career, because not everybody follows it as a career. But it is a journey for all of us, right? Early on in this photographic journey, or photography journey, a photographer will, let's say, and I use this example a lot, will say arrive at a lake, right? Really early in the morning, and maybe it's the beginning of winter or whatever, right? So it's a little cool out, it's a little dark, kind of bluish. And the main goal for somebody that's new in photography is to capture a beautiful scene, right? And that's going to mean different things to different people, right? But for somebody that's feeling cold, that would rather be in a cozy, warm place, right? Asleep maybe, say at 6:30 in the morning in the winter, maybe a beautiful picture is something that feels warm and pleasant and bright. So if you put in the camera in automatic, or if you put in the camera in automatic white balance, the camera might very well balance out those blues and inject some yellows and reds and oranges to kind of balance out the colors. And this photographer that's starting out is going to get home, look at that picture on the computer and say, oh my God, it's beautiful. And it's beautiful. But you see, that's the thing. The photographer caught something that was there that day, focused on what they were seeing, and in their mind what they're seeing, and not what they were feeling. So what does a more advanced photographer do in this case? Well, a more advanced photographer might realize that it's cold, that they're tired, that it's very bluish out, and will make sure that they capture just that. They're going to go out of their way to look on the LCD screen when they snap that first picture to make sure that those blue hues are there. And if there's a little snow, maybe instead of just taking a beautiful scene of the mountain and the lake, maybe they'll back up a little and get that little bush that has some snow on top of it, because in the foreground, right? Because it's going to lend to the fact that it's a cold, bluish, morning. Both of these photographs are going to be beautiful, right? There's no doubt if they're done well. But only one of those photographs, or these photographs, is going to give you that feeling. It's going to relay that feeling of winter. So you see how, as we progress in our photography journey, we go from photographing what we see and we start photographing what we feel. But we're going to break this down further. This is going to get even more interesting. And I'll tell you what, we've talked about this in other videos. A really advanced photographer will not only photograph what they feel, right? They're going to present a picture to you that's not just what they were feeling, it's what they want you to feel. Think about that, right? So they're not just going to present a picture of what they were feeling that day, they're going to present a picture of what they want you to feel. And the media does that a lot. The media will present an image or part of an image or more than the image needs to show just to make a point, and to record something in your mind that they don't want you to forget. We're going to come back to photographing what we feel, because I do want to break that down a little further. But we talked about how we go from photographing what we see to photographing what we feel unless we develop some bad habits. And I mentioned that I would talk about this. I want to do that right now. I think this is an appropriate spot. So what do I mean by that? What's a bad habit for a photographer, right? That's going to distract taking pictures of what they're feeling instead of what they're seeing. The first one is something I call lazy shooting. Lazy shooting for me is just another way of saying that the photographer is not in the moment. They're not aware of their surroundings. They're not present, basically, right? Their mind might be in other places. They might be thinking about other things. They have the camera, they're shooting, but it's lazy shooting, right? They're just wandering, shooting things that stand out, colorful, whatever, maybe something with texture, right? But they're not focused. If we get used to picking up a camera and running out and just shooting here and there because we have a lot going on, maybe we're blasting music and we're more focused on the music than we are on taking pictures, what ends up happening is that we develop this habit of lazy shooting or mindless shooting, right? And it will become a habit, because if you do it enough and you get decent pictures, and you're not one of those people that challenges yourself all the time, well, you're kind of always going to be happy with what you're getting, so there's really no need to change it or improve it. We're talking basically about just focusing on what we're there to do, right? If you're walking around with a camera in your hand, looking for things and paying attention to everything that's around. We've done it in other videos where we talk about, taking a trip to shoot something far away and then not using the camera in the entire journey when there are hundreds of things around us that we can be photographing. So that's what I mean by just being present and aware. And that's gonna get rid of this whole lazy shooting concept, right? If we're present and aware, lazy shooting is not an object and it's not an issue, and we're going to step above shooting what we see, and we're going to start thinking about shooting what we feel. Again, there's more into that, but I don't want to delve into that right now. But you see that difference, right? Listening to music and being distracted by it, overly distracted by it, and not paying attention to what we're doing with our camera is definitely going to put us into that lazy shooting mode. And besides that, shooting what we're seeing, right? We see this, we capture it. We see that, we capture it. Letting the camera pick the color, temperature, maybe letting the camera pick other things without us checking to see if this is what we want or not, right? Including depth of field. So let's move into the second bad habit. And this is the opposite of lazy shooting, kind of. It's still kind of there though, right? It's still that mindless thing, but it's called rushed shooting. And we already know a rushed job very rarely leads to anything good, even in photography. Now we know there are times in photography where we are rushed and we need to be rushed, right? I don't know if we need to, but we just are. Take a paparazzi, right? They're shooting somebody that's running from a limo to an event and they're still half a block away, they have to run, right? Weddings, for example, there are moments where you just have to haul butt because time is running out. Sports, something's happening at one end and you're focused over here and you have to pick up and move, and I'm not talking about that. That's going to happen. We know that, and people that do that type of photography know this, and they work well under pressure, right? I did that for a while and shot over 100 weddings, and that's behind me. That type of photography is not photography I enjoy. I enjoy more mindful photography where you have to pay more attention, and even further than that, where you get to set up the shot, right? You don't always get to set up a shot when you're doing sports, paparazzi, and weddings, but when you're shooting a flower, when you're shooting a water drop, when you're shooting something artistic like a model, you can take time to set that up. But there is something that happens in our lives where we let bills and work and a lot of things take over. Sometimes I feel that. And we start rushing everything, not just our photography. So it's easy when we start living that lifestyle to let it bleed into our photography. So no surprise if we're rushing here, rushing there, rushing to the supermarket, rushing to get our car fixed, rushing to work. No surprise that I'm going to pick up my camera and rush out the door and rush where I'm going and rush back and rush when I'm editing, right? And so it's become a habit at that point. We need to really stop and think, right? First of all, do I want my photography to be this way? Is there a way that I can slow down my photography even though the rest of my life is in chaos and in rush mode? Probably yes. There's probably a way to do that, right? Where, okay, I'm only going to shoot one Sunday every month or one Saturday every month. It's only going to be for 3 hours. For those 3 hours, I'm taking my time. I'm going to take it easy. Definitely something we can work out. But the end goal really here is to figure out how to slow everything down so that we have a better life, better quality of life. And then we won't have to think about it when it comes to photography. We are already in the mood and in the swing of working gently, calmly, paying attention to everything. And then when we pick up the camera, it's just a continuation of how we live. And we know already, right? If we're completely conscious and aware during the act of photography, or during the act of anything for that matter, it's just going to be more enjoyable, more pleasurable, right? And it's going to lead to less lazy shooting and rushed shooting. And of course, the easiest way to do this is just to make sure we have enough time to shoot calmly, right? When we pick a time to go shoot, whether it's flowers or the city or whatever, just making sure we have enough time to do that, right? That we're not squeezing an hour and a half shoot into 45 minutes, because then it becomes that again. So if we take the time to shoot calmly and pay attention to our surroundings, be mindful, we are definitely going to be more likely to shoot what we're feeling, or what we feel, because we're paying attention to what we feel. When I get out there in that lake in the morning, I'm not rushed to take the picture and run back home and edit it. And wow, the white balance was automatic. The picture looks a little yellow and warm. Somebody looking at it is going to go, "Oh my God, that's beautiful," but it's going to seem like it was shot in the afternoon, maybe even in the summer in the afternoon, right? Only if you have that calmness to say, you know what, it's brisk out here, it's cold, but it's beautiful. I want this picture to relay what I'm feeling, which is that coldness, right? So I'm going to make sure that the hues are blue and that I show maybe a little snow here and there, right? Paying attention, that's all it takes. Now, I promised I was going to break up this feel thing, right? How can we do that? Well, there are different feelings, right? We can photograph when we get to that lake at 6:30 in the morning in the beginning of winter. We can photograph what it makes us feel physically. And we just talked about all that. It makes me feel cold physically. So I'm going to make sure that when I show this picture to you, that it makes you feel cold physically, right? Well, I can't make you feel cold physically, but you're going to know that I was feeling cold, right? But then there's another type of feeling, and it's how it makes me feel emotionally. How can I possibly take a picture at the lake of how it makes me feel emotionally? I mean, we understand that if it's really cold out there, I can portray coldness, right? In the picture, how do I relay my feelings, what I'm feeling emotionally in a photograph? Well, it's actually not that difficult. For example, if I get to that lake in the morning and I'm, sitting on a log and I'm setting up a tripod and I see something at the distance that's just a bit sad, whether it's maybe the carcass of a dead animal that was hunted previously and, eaten, whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be anything that dramatic. It might just be a beautiful sunrise. It might be a beautiful sunset. And it brings back memories of something in our past, or maybe something that we used to like to do with somebody that's no longer around for whatever reason. That's a sad moment, right? So now I have a choice now. I have a choice of two things. I can portray to you this morning coolness, right? Or I can portray this morning sadness. And how do I show you the difference? Well, maybe to show you that it's cool, I am going to keep it bluish, just like it is. And I want to show some white snow all around the leaves and, up on the mountaintops. To make it sad, I might remove the color altogether. Maybe I'll make it a black and white image, and at that point, play a little bit with the saturation and with some of the shadows. And when you look at it, it's just going to look like a sad picture. So I was successful in relaying to you sadness instead of coldness. But this can only happen if we are aware, if we're walking around completely aware of what we're doing, paying attention to those details. Because again, if we just get in there, shoot, and run out, then who knows what it's going to look like, right? But if I want to photograph and relay to you what I'm feeling physically, then I'm going to make sure all the settings are right on the camera. And if I want to relay to you what I'm feeling emotionally, then it's not only that the settings are right in the camera, but that I alter those settings and not even make them faithful to what I'm seeing, but maybe alter the settings or maybe alter it on the computer when I get home to make you feel the sadness that I was feeling. Or I get to a place and even though it's cold and it's blue, I am so happy because I'm on vacation and it's the first day of my vacation and I'm excited because I'm at this, lake and the mountains and I can't wait to take more pictures and I want to relay this happiness that I'm feeling to you. I don't care if I relay coldness to you or not. I'm extremely ecstatic. How do I relay this to you? Well, I want to take a series of pictures maybe of birds on tree limbs, of beautiful leaves changing colors if it's still the end of the fall. Maybe close-ups of the snow on leaves, right? Just all kinds of cool things that show the joy of winter, right? Maybe two animals playing in the snow, or you know where I'm going with this, right? So now I'm focused on giving you what I'm feeling instead of, feeling emotionally instead of feeling physically. But I think you know where I'm going with all this, or at least what I'm trying to say, right? Like I mentioned a little while ago, in life, it applies here in photography. The more time we spend paying attention to details, the more time we spend aware of what we're doing, focusing on doing it well, whether it's the martial arts or photography or anything else that we're doing, it's just going to give us a better result. And we have the ability of not just delivering a result, we have the ability of delivering different results depending on whether we want to show what we are feeling physically or mentally. An artist can do this with their drawings, with their paintings, with their sculptures. A person can do this with architecture, right? You walk into a building and the building was either designed to make you feel one way or another. You see this in architecture all the time, right? So the architects are aware of this. The civil engineers are aware of this when they pick out the location, right? Depending on the dirt or the rock or wherever they are, where they want this structure built. There's so many things that go into it. We take a lot of that for granted. Let's not take it for granted in our photography because this is what we do for pleasure. So I leave you with this. We are here at the end of the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like below on your left, subscribe below on your right, and share and comment, please. Let me know what you're thinking, if you agree with some of this, disagree. I want to thank some of the people that I'm starting to see regularly in my comments. Thank you so much. I love going on the computer and finding your comments. I love responding. I'm building a friendship on YouTube, responding to these comments, so I really do appreciate it. Anybody else, feel free to join us, and we will catch up in the next video. Ciao for now.